Hey there, thrill seekers. If you're into spine-chilling stories about terrible neighbors that'll keep you up all night, then you've come to the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up as you buckle up for a terrifying ride through our horrifying tales. So, I just want to start by saying that me and my mom, we never wanted any of this scary stuff to happen. My mom, she's a widow, and we moved to this real out of the way sort of neighborhood to just get away from everything. You know, after Dad died, we just needed to start over. Anyway, I don't talk so good, and I ain't ever been a big writer, but this scary story happened for real, and I just have to tell someone. So it's just me, my mom, and this big old house we moved into, out in a real rural place. We ain't got many neighbors, and the ones we got, well, they were pretty strange right from the get-go. At first, everything seemed just fine, but things started getting more and more off, I guess you'd say. Now, I ain't never been a real quiet girl, but the first thing that really made me scratch my head was how quiet it was in our neighborhood. No dogs barking, no cars driving by, no kids playing outside. It was like everybody was keeping to themselves, but like, too much. There was this one lady living close to us, named Ms. Jenkins. She was always kind of peeking at us from behind her curtains. Never said much, but always giving us that creepy stare. It was like she was always watching us. I didn't like it one bit. One night, I was having trouble sleeping, and I heard some strange noises outside. It was something like whispers, but not quite. I thought, something must be up. What were people doing, talking all quiet like this late in the night and near my house? I listened real hard, trying to make out what they were saying, but I couldn't quite get it. So I decided to just go see for myself. I snuck out my room, and I stepped outside the back door, and then I just froze. In the backyards next door and beyond, I could see all my neighbors doing something. They all had black on, and they were gathering there like some kind of secret club. And who was right in the middle of it? Ms. Jenkins, of course. Fast as I could, I snuck back into my house, hoping no one had seen me. The next morning, I told my mom everything, and she was real scared, like I was. There was no way of sugarcoating it. We were dealing with some kind of cult. And on top of that, they were doing these creepy rituals. The whole thing just wasn't right. We didn't know what to do, but we were afraid to call the cops. What if nobody believed us? Or worse, what if someone found out that we ratted on them? Things were getting scarier each day, but we didn't want to pack up and move again either. We were stuck. But then one day, pretty much out of nowhere, this guy moved into town. We ain't never seen him before, but he didn't seem to belong either. I mean, he didn't dress in black like the other folks here, and he just seemed normal. It took him no time to notice something was wrong. He started talking to my mom and me, trying to figure out what we knew. He told us he had experience in dealing with creepy stuff like this, and that he might be able to help us out. Turns out he'd been moving around a lot dealing with these nasty, weird cults. They were always performing these devilish rituals and stuff. He said the only thing we could really do was put an end to this cult, like confront them outright. This guy, he was real brave, and we were kind of getting desperate, so we went along with it. The night came when we knew the cult would be out there, doing whatever they did. So we all got ready, armed with nothing but some flashlights and our courage. We went out into that eerie night. When we got there, we saw them. They were all gathered up just like before, but this time, they were surrounded by candles, and it seemed like they were trying to summon something. Our new friend, the helpful outsider, he stepped up to the creepy cult. He shouted at them, calling them out for their twisted rituals and telling them they needed to leave us alone. You could tell he wasn't afraid, and his bravery bolstered me and my mom. All of a sudden, the cult members started screaming and carrying on like something was after them. Miss Jenkins, she was gripping her chest tight as if she couldn't breathe. And then, just as quickly as it all started, it stopped. The cult knew they'd been beaten, and they turned away and ran off into the darkness. Our helpful friend moved on too, saying he had other folks he still had to help. As for my mom and me, well, we stayed put. and our lives finally started to feel like normal again. But I promise you, we'll never forget that night and the calamity we faced, ever. So, I just gotta tell y'all this really happened, and it was downright scary. My name's Anna, and I ain't a big writer or nothing, but this story gonna get told one way or the other. Now let me start saying that I moved into this creepy old apartment, not knowing the terrible history behind it. I was just looking for a place to live, and this building seemed as good as any other. But I guess I couldn't have been more wrong. At first, I thought everything was gonna be great. I mean, the apartment was nice and I started making it home real quick. But then, the weirdest things started happening. It began with strange noises and just stuff missing. I didn't think much of it. But then I noticed my neighbors were acting all sketchy and strange. So I started asking questions about the building, but nobody seemed to want to talk. But what really set me off was finding out that there was a bunch of mysterious and tragic accidents that had happened in the building before. And that was just the beginning. Anyways, my new neighbor Sue kinda became friends with me, or so I thought. Turns out, all my neighbors was part of something real wicked. One day, Sue was acting more nervous than usual, and she slipped a little paper into my hand before she left. The note said, "Don't trust anyone. There's evil in this place." That night, scared out of my mind, I decided I had to find out what was going on. I made up my mind I would investigate the building. I started by looking into the creepy basement, hoping to find some kind of clue. But what I saw down there was downright terrifying. There was this altar-like thing with all kinds of symbols drawn around it. It had dark red stains all over it too. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was gonna burst right out of my chest. That's when I decided that I had to get out of there and find me some help. So, I didn't know who to trust, but I found this paranormal investigator on the internet, and I called them, hoping they could do something. Luckily for me, they was willing to come and look into it. Man, was I grateful because I was out of my mind scared. When the investigator arrived, they started looking into everything I'd found. I was feeling more relief, thinking that at least somebody believed me. They started digging into the building's history. Then, after a few days of poking around, they came to me with the truth. That evil neighbors in the building were part of a dark cult that made sacrifices right in the basement. That's why the building had such a tragic history. They explained to me they had even cursed the building, and them curses were still working their way through it. They told me that if I wanted to save myself, I had to break the curse and confront the dark cult folks. Well, I'll tell y'all, I was real scared, but I also real mad. I was tired of letting this place have power over me, so I worked with the paranormal investigator, making a plan to put an end to all this. We decided to confront the evil neighbors on the night of the next full moon, as they were about to perform another one of their dark rituals. With the help from the investigator, we gathered all the stuff we needed to break the curse, and we was ready. When the night came, the investigator and I stormed into the basement, interrupting the cult's terrible ritual. Them cult folks, they freaked out, and we knew it was our chance. Using the knowledge the investigator gave me, we performed our own ritual to break the curse. I don't know what the investigator did after that. All I know is that all of a sudden, them evil neighbors was panicking left and right, unable to harm me no more. I didn't waste no time. Once I knew the curse was gone, I grabbed my stuff and left that building for good. I moved far away, but I will never forget the sinister neighbors and the haunted building that held me captive for a time. Now, if you'll ever find yourselves in a dark, creepy place, be careful, because sometimes there's more lurking beneath the surface than you might ever expect. So I'm gonna tell you all about this real scary thing that happened to me and my friends one time. I ain't no fancy writer or nothing, but I gotta get this story out there so people know to watch out. See, it all started when my buddies and me decided to go on this weekend trip to a cabin we rented out in the woods. We wanted to get away from the city for a bit, just hang out and have a good time, you know? And it was gonna be a great trip, or so we thought. Now, this cabin, it was real out in the middle of nowhere. which I guess we figured would be nice. But right from the get-go, something didn't feel quite right. The guy we rented the cabin from was real weird, and he kept telling us these strange, dark stories about the woods all around. But we just kinda ignored him, thinking it was local stuff he made up to scare tourists or something. We just wanted to chill, have a few drinks, and enjoy nature. But man, we couldn't have been more wrong. So anyways, the first night there, we was sitting around a campfire when we started hearing these strange noises out in the brush. It was like a mix of growling and laughing, and it was real creepy. But we tried to brush it off and call it just some critters out in the woods. The next morning, we woke up, and things was even more rightly strange. There was some really odd, claw marks on the ground near the cabin. And we was just like, what the heck is going on out here? It was at that point we started to get this feeling in the pit of our stomachs that maybe we wasn't alone out in them woods. But we decided we was gonna stay and try to make the best of it. Warning signs and all. We thought it was still just, the woods being the woods. As our stay continued, the tension started building, and scares we can't ever forget happened. Near the cabin, we found a run-down old shack all creepy and full of them claw marks, just like we'd seen before. Immediately, we got this bad feeling that something was watching us. Them days went on with things getting worse and worse until one night, it finally happened. We heard them noises again, but this time they was coming straight for us, and they was mighty angry. All of a sudden, we saw these monstrous neighbors, but they weren't like no people we'd ever seen. Well, we panicked. There ain't no other way to put it. Them monstrous neighbors were chasing after us. We ran and stumbled through the woods, completely terrified. Our hearts was in our throats. We managed to finally reach the cabin, which now felt like a safe haven in light of what we saw. We locked ourselves inside, and that's when we realized there was bad things going on in them woods that nobody was supposed to know about. These monstrous neighbors was involved in something so evil, so dark that just being anywhere near them was dangerous. We was really in a pickle. We had to get out of the area without getting caught by our horrifying neighbors. So we went back to town real fast and asked for some help. Turns out the monstrous neighbors was a secret known to only a few folks, and they were desperate to catch him. So now our weekend break had turned into a real-life nightmare, and we was trying to help the police take down these woodland monsters. With the help of some local officers, we set a trap to catch him in the act. The plan worked, and when the monstrous neighbors showed up right where we thought they would, we managed to escape and call the officers at just the right time. They swooped in like heroes, catching our nightmarish neighbors and their wicked plans. Against all odds, we made it out to the woods safe and sound. Them monstrous neighbors. They was taken care of, and we had helped, in a small way, to put an end to their terror. The dark secrets they had hidden were now exposed, and we were just grateful to be alive. Now, I know them woods is still out there, full of who knows what and who knows who. I'll just be careful if you ever go on a trip like that. And remember, don't ever take a place's quiet beauty for granted. There's always a possibility that something is hiding in them shadows. Thanks for sticking with us till the end of this spine-chilling story. We're experimenting with our format, so your feedback means a lot to us. Please like, subscribe, and even better, share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know what worked and what didn't, and suggest ideas for our next terrifying tale. Be sure to vote for other comments that have ideas you love, as we write scary stories based on your requests.